Hi, I'm Daniel, and with me is Jarrett. We picked 3 unique individuals to answer some questions on how to resolve conflict through a worldview. The first one is Benjamin Henderson, a local youth pastor in Champaign-Urbana, who's quite a lot to say on what it means to resolve conflict when God is in.
Well, I think it's, with youth ministry, there's really 3 different parties that you can be in conflict with. So you can have conflict with parents, you can have conflict with students, which is the normal thing, and occasionally conflict with leaders. Off the top of my head, I don't think I've ever experienced or had any conflict situations with, well, that's not true, I guess I have had conflict situations with other leaders. Because I think you have to do a slightly different approach for the different things. So when it's, kind of an adult to an adult, I think, just confronting it and saying, hey, this bothered me, or hey, this, when you did this, it made me feel such and such kind of way. And then just talking with them about it. I think with students, you have to be a little more thoughtful because they're still growing up, and so they don't always have a clear handle on kind of like what's really insulting or what's acceptable to say, or that, like, they can be disrespectful without them consciously being disrespectful, and so you have to approach it, I think, a little more cautiously. Like, you can't just bring a student up for a serious chat and then immediately come out with your guns blazing and be like, when you did, it was very rude. Like, you have to be a little more circumspect, I guess. Let me look it up. When Abraham and Lot, when Abraham is still together, or when Lot is still with Abraham before they separate, they reach a point where it's in Genesis. They reach a point where their flocks, like, they've gotten too big to stay together, and so Lot's shepherds and Abraham's shepherds are fighting because they're fighting over pasture for the flocks, and so Abraham and Lot, it's a conflict that they have to resolve. And I don't know if the passage is, I don't think it's directly about conflict resolution, but it is an example, of one that the Bible records. And basically what Abraham does is, as soon as he finds out about the problem, again, he goes straight to Lot, so he doesn't wait around and see, he doesn't go talk to Sarah about it, he goes straight to Lot, and they talk, and Abraham actually, because it, for him, was not about beating Lot or being victorious over him, but was about this reconciliation idea, he let Lot choose. Like, he said, I'll go one way, you go the other way, Lot, and you get to choose first. And so Lot chose his direction, and then Abraham went the opposite direction. And so I think, that's just a good example of really everything we've been talking about, that for Abraham, it was more important to keep a good relationship with his nephew, to even let him choose. Because in similar situations with me, like, let's say, I don't even know, like something minor, like where to eat dinner out or something with friends. It's like, I'm probably not going to be one to be like, well, why don't you just pick? Or like to give that kind of the prerogative to somebody else, I think is an act of extreme humility. But I think it's also a sign for Abraham that, once again, his relationship with Lot was more important than these other things. And I think, that's a good example for us, because our relationships with each other, which are reflections of our relationship with the Lord, as John talks about in 1 John, should be priority 1 over anything else.
Melanie Jackson is the local leader of See You at Home and has worked through with a lot of conflicts concerning government and other people, co-workers.
Family's tough. They know you better than anybody else. And sometimes it's the people that we're closest to that it's hardest to resolve conflict with. I think with family members, at least for myself, I tend to dig in my heels and just want to stand my ground. So I think it is more challenging to resolve conflict with family. Yet family also has a much stronger tie in many ways. The tie of being a blood relative, and ultimately, even though there might be all kinds of conflict, for example, my brother, I know ultimately he's going to stand up for me. He's got my back no matter what's going on. Even though we might argue and have some conflict, I know when it comes right down to it, if it's something important, he'll be on my side. I think about a time when I was dealing with a conflict with a coworker, and it really ended up largely being a misunderstanding. And once the misunderstanding was cleared up and I understood what he was really trying to say and the reason why he felt the way he did, we were able to move on from that point and actually have a deeper bond of trust with each other through that experience. And I think he had more trust in me and I had more trust in him once we worked through that situation.
Now is Chris Chambers. He is also a local youth pastor from First Baptist and is a married man who has a lot to say and resolve.
I think it's communicating, talking about it, because I think sometimes it's easy to just kind of not talk about it or try to, brush it, scoot it under the rug, and just try to hope it'll go away. But it's going to come back, typically, because you just spend so much time together and hopefully your whole lives together. So it's definitely in just being open in communication and being able to admit when you're wrong, sometimes just giving in, submit to your spouse. And, I think it's better to do that than to be combatant and always have to be right, whether it's the man or the woman. It's just, that's not a good situation when someone's just got to be right. Sometimes there isn't always necessarily a right and a wrong person in the situation. It's just usually mixed in some way. There was one situation where someone had been speaking very poorly of me publicly, and I resolved kind of in my thought life and in prayer that if this continued, that I would take a friend who's a friend of both of ours, to try to resolve the situation. And I remember praying specifically to say, God, just protect me and, just be my protection out there where I can't be there, for myself with this person. And so God really answered my prayer. I really felt like never heard anything else negative, and no one was saying that this person was continuing in their behavior of, putting me down. So it was really good. I think God really answered prayer.
Hi, I'm Daniel, and with me is Jarrett. We're now doing a synopsis of our previous video about our thoughts on what our three individuals had to say on resolving conflict. The first person we interviewed was Ben Henderson, a youth pastor for Twin City Bible Church who kindly answered all our questions. He said that in order to resolve conflicts, you must first address it with the person. Don't go to other people first. Confront the person immediately. Also, you must look at the confrontation as a way to resolve, not win an argument. And if that means making a sacrifice like Abraham did with Lot. We also interviewed Melanie Jackson, the leader of CU at Home. We asked her what she thought about resolving it with family. Her response was that just like any other confrontation, you must go to them. Although it may be tough due to the family's knowledge of each other, the ties can often overcome it easier than if it was just an acquaintance or a friend. She said that there are times when you confront someone, it will most likely be a misunderstanding. Thus, when she first confronted a co-worker right away, the misunderstanding was cleared up and they were able to gain a deeper trust in each other. Lastly, we interviewed Chris Chambers, another youth pastor for First Baptist Church. He said that God will help handle the situation if we will just ask for it. Firstly, you must confront the person, which is exactly what Ben and Melanie said. But he also said that to spend time praying before you go. not meaning to put off the confrontation, but to go immediately rather than later, meanwhile praying. He also said that in the situation of a spouse, that you must communicate, which applies to the others as well. Sometimes there isn't a right or wrong person, just a difference in character that you have to. All in all, each person had a unique way of describing what you should do in the case of resolving conflict. They all agreed on 3 things. Address the situation immediately. Don't go in wanting to win the confrontation, and trust God. No matter if it's family, spouse, friends, or even just co-workers, you must address each confrontation immediately and gently.